Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. This morning, my world was turned upside down when my wife spoke words that filled me with dread. I want an open marriage. It's been about 10 hours since then, and I'm still in shock, trying to find clarity in this overwhelming situation. I've been looking for advice, attempting to understand her perspective and figure out how we might navigate these difficult conversations moving forward. I feel completely lost. I'm 34, she's 32, and we've been married for 5 years. We don't have children, and in the 7 years we've been together, she never once mentioned any desire for an open relationship. But today, when she sat me down for a talk that I now realize was the talk, I sensed that something was off. I tried to stay calm and open-minded, but nothing could have prepared me for what she was about to say. When I asked her what had brought this on, she admitted that she'd been feeling this desire for a while. She spoke about connections with several men from her past that she hadn't pursued out of respect for our relationship. Hearing this, seeing her pain, tore my heart apart. My thoughts were scattered, but as I looked at her, her eyes swollen from crying, her cheeks streaked with tears, a part of me wanted to simply hold her and tell her how much I love her. But I didn't. Instead, I sat in silence, listening to her explanations. We were both breaking in our own ways, and the tremor in her voice and hands made it even more unbearable. For a moment, I even wondered if her suffering was deeper than mine. I tried to comfort her, though it felt pointless. Neither of us found any solace. My wife is incredibly beautiful, both inside and out, and I've always known she draws attention from other men. Honestly, I've always felt she was out of my league. If I'm a 5, she's a 10. Jealousy has never been an issue for me. I knew I had to be secure in myself if I wanted to be with someone like her. Over the years, I've watched guys flirt with her, in bars, at concerts, even at her workplace. If I wasn't around, someone would inevitably try to win her over, but it never bothered me. She always turned them down out of respect for me and our marriage. I got used to it. She has a contagious laugh that draws people in, and a warmth that makes falling for her easy. A simple touch from her can mesmerize anyone. But the idea of an open marriage? That was a line I never thought we'd cross. She went on to explain that she felt a lack of variety, especially in our intimate life. She wanted to experience something she apparently couldn't with me, her husband. For the first time in our relationship, I felt small, as though I wasn't enough for her. To give context, she's had significantly more intimate experience than I have, 10 partners to my 3, including group encounters, which I've never tried. Yet despite this, I never considered myself a jealous person. I told her that while the thought of intimacy with other women might appeal to me, it simply wasn't a realistic option for me, with or without her in my life. We've always been open to experimenting, exploring our fantasies together, but it was always just the two of us. So I asked her specifically what she wanted from an open marriage in terms of intimacy. Her answer was vague, aside from mentioning an interest in threesomes with 2 men, which apparently appeals to her. I said I might consider that occasionally, provided we also included another woman. She quickly shifted the conversation to another topic. It's not that my wife is entirely opposed to women, but in all the years we've been together, she's never seemed comfortable with even the simplest displays of affection toward them, not even a friendly kiss on the cheek. Then she dealt another blow. She confessed that she's felt an emptiness inside for a long time, even before we met, and thought that an open marriage might help fill that void. I couldn't understand why she'd never mentioned this before. We've always been open with each other about our dreams, fears, and insecurities. I told her that if she'd brought it up when we were dating, we might have explored it back then. But now, I don't know where we go from here. At this point in my life, I'm truly happy in my marriage. Together, we've built our lives, and I'm determined to maintain that within the boundaries of a monogamous relationship, which we both work hard to sustain. The idea of going back into the dating world doesn't appeal to me in the slightest, and honestly, I've never been good at flirting or charming people. If you're wondering how someone like me, a self-proclaimed bit of a nerd, ended up with such a beautiful woman as my wife, well, that's a story worth telling. It all started one day in a parking lot when I saw a guy harassing her, and things quickly got out of hand. The guy was bigger than me, but I managed to catch him off guard with a punch and a well-timed kick. He ended up behind bars, and I avoided any legal consequences. This incident became the start of our friendship, although the romance between us didn't develop until after I won a major competition. I won't go into too much detail, but the victory had a political significance. As they say, winners attract attention, and that was when our relationship started to change. Early in our marriage, I made it clear that I didn't want to alter the dynamics between us, mainly because it wasn't something I originally expected from our relationship. I told her that she was the love of my life, the woman with whom I wanted to build a family, and that I would do everything to make her happy. Looking back, perhaps I was too candid about my desire to do whatever it took for her happiness, but at that moment, it was the absolute truth. The issue now is that I'm unsure if I can handle the direction she wants to take. I asked her how she envisioned an open marriage, beyond the intimate aspects. Her answer was vague, but she hinted at the possibility of long-term relationships with multiple people. For hours, she kept asking me what I needed to feel comfortable with the idea and what boundaries I'd like to establish. To be honest, I didn't have many answers, mostly because I was too overwhelmed to think clearly. The only thing I could express was that our marriage had to remain the top priority, and that everyone involved must practice safe sex. She's on birth control, and we don't use other contraceptives. But I made it very clear that, under no circumstances, could she get pregnant by another man while we were married. This led to a conversation about starting a family, and that's when she delivered the most devastating blow of the evening. She wanted to explore the idea of an open marriage before even considering children. That became the point of no return for me. Up until that moment, I had been trying my hardest to hold it together, but hearing this made me feel as if everything inside me had collapsed. I felt empty, like a broken vessel with nothing left inside. My wife had never seen me in such a state, and if I could erase one moment from my life, it would be that one. If I had any control over it, I would never let her see me like that again. By the time we were both crying, she was trying to comfort me, assuring me that her love wouldn't change and that she just wanted to postpone starting a family for a while. "It's just physical," she said. She tried to calm me down by holding me, but at that moment, feeling her embrace was too much to bear. I stood up, stunned, and walked away. My mind was in chaos, too many thoughts swirling all at once. I spent the next few hours wandering around the house, waiting for her to fall asleep. Eventually, I ended up in the bathroom, trying to avoid her and constantly replaying everything she had said. When I was sure she was asleep, I quietly left the house and drove to my parents'. I needed time and space to think and figure out what to do next. I began researching everything I could find about open relationships. It's been over a month since my wife suggested opening our marriage. Here's where things stand now. In short, I hired a private investigator to find out if my wife had already been cheating on me, but nothing came up. Nevertheless, my trust in her has been deeply shaken. We started attending couples therapy, but after a few sessions, I decided to stop. To put it mildly, I was extremely unhappy with the therapist. Afterward, I found a new therapist with a solid reputation. She charges a lot and has a long wait list, but we finally managed to have our first session. During this session, we mainly discussed our issues. I hadn't planned to share what happened in therapy, but to make the story complete, I'll include some details. A week later, we had a second session, and I already noticed a big difference compared to the first therapist. The new therapist was far more direct. She asked a lot of questions, sometimes addressing us individually and other times together. Unlike the first therapist, who allowed my wife to talk endlessly, this therapist kept the conversation on track. This really helped me better understand the situation. For example, with the first therapist, I had directly asked my wife if she had been unfaithful or if there was someone specific she had in mind. Instead of answering, she dodged the question and launched into a long, irrelevant story. The therapist ignored my question and focused on how my wife felt unfulfilled, completely disregarding what I'd asked. I was even scolded several times for supposedly not considering her needs enough. When I asked the same question with the new therapist, my wife again tried to evade it. But this time, the therapist intervened and insisted she answer directly. Eventually, I got the answer I was looking for. At first, she spoke vaguely, but in the end, she admitted there were a few men she could approach if we opened our marriage. Specifically, 3 men, all colleagues from work. She quickly added that they worked in different regions and departments. At this moment, she broke down, covering her face with her hands. I sat there watching her cry. Every instinct as a husband screamed at me to go to her, to comfort her, to make her feel safe. Every part of me wanted to reach out, but I couldn't move. In the end, the therapist handed her a tissue. When she wiped her eyes, she glanced at me for a moment, and I couldn't shake the thought that maybe we were both wondering the same thing. Had I stopped loving her? She pulled herself together and continued. She explained that she only sees these men about 4 times a year, and assured me that she had never had private conversations with them. According to her, they didn't even know she was interested. All their interactions took place in group work meetings. I couldn't hold back and asked, why them specifically? Her answer was brutal in its honesty. They're attractive and funny. She also mentioned that she'd heard from other women at work that these men had already been involved in flings. Then she named them. To my surprise, I knew 2 of them and had even spoken to them a few times. Even after all of this, part of me still finds it hard to believe. 2 men I talked to both remarked on how lucky I was to have such an amazing wife. And here I was in therapy, where she admitted she had been fantasizing about them. Sometimes, during our sessions, she would break down in tears. At other times, she seemed emotionally distant. But the essence of her stories remained consistent from the beginning of our journey in therapy. By the time we reached the 3rd session, I had grown used to her descriptions of how brief encounters with men stirred strong emotions and desires within her, ones she struggled to manage. By the 8th story, I barely paid attention, and trust me, there were plenty more stories. Each one followed a familiar pattern. She'd meet an attractive man, whether at a store, bank, or even our favorite cafe. They'd flirt for a few days, and inevitably, the man would ask her out. She always refused, citing our marriage, but would then spend weeks fantasizing about what might have happened had she agreed. I know what you're probably thinking, that it sounds like an addiction. I thought the same thing at first, but after consulting with several therapists, they all reached a different conclusion. Since she never acted on these impulses and showed restraint, they believed she was dealing with something else. It was akin to feelings experienced by teenagers, although most people outgrow it over time. People going through a midlife crisis might experience similar intense fantasies. So either my wife is facing an early midlife crisis, or she's emotionally stuck in an adolescent mentality when it comes to intimacy. Listening to your spouse confess that she wants to sleep with every attractive man she meets, then ask for your blessing. It's not how anyone would imagine Valentine's Day. Our past Valentine's Days were memorable, full of spontaneous adventures. One year, we went skinny dipping on a beach. Another time, we snuck into a dressing room during a formal event for a quick secret rendezvous. Just last year, we rented a private jet, enjoying the entire cabin to ourselves. But this Valentine's Day was different. It was the first since she had suggested the idea of an open marriage. At first glance, the evening seemed ordinary. We had dinner, spent time together, and when we returned home, she initiated intimacy. It was our first physical contact since she brought up the idea of opening our relationship, and it had been the longest we'd gone without intimacy in our entire life together. But honestly, for me, it felt different. There was no passion. I took a few days off, and we mostly stayed home, keeping a low profile. During this time, I did a lot of thinking about the past week, about everything she said in therapy, and about where our marriage stands now. I'm still unsure what to do. We're both making sacrifices for our marriage, but ultimately, I'm the one who has to make the tough decision. I believe her when she says she won't ask for a divorce, but she's also made it clear she'll agree if that's what I want. It breaks my heart to see her this way. The woman I fell in love with was full of life, energy, and joy that inspired me. Now, it seems that light has faded, and she's just a shadow of who she used to be. That's the hardest thing to accept. If I truly love her, maybe the best thing I can do is let her go, give her the freedom to be herself, even if it means we have to go our separate ways. At this point, divorce feels inevitable. I don't want to share my wife. That's why I told her, "I'm filing for divorce. I'll never agree to you sleeping with other men," she cried. "But you can't leave me. I need this." "If you need it, then go ahead, but without me. Goodbye." Soon we divorced. I started dating again, and she pursued her fantasies with different men. 2 years later, she was working in a cheap brothel. This is where her fantasies had led her. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. In one night, my life fell apart so completely that it felt foreign to me. I packed up our things at the hotel, left, and drove home in a daze, barely aware of anything except the road ahead. At a traffic light, I muttered to myself, "Green light, let's go," and slowly let go of the brake, almost like the car itself. As I kept driving, I couldn't shake the shock of how quickly and profoundly everything had changed with Arya. Just recently, I was her whole world. Now, I was nothing. What haunted me most was the cold tone with which she delivered that crushing blow. She showed no emotion, no regret. She simply made the decision without hesitation, surrendering to the allure of some celebrity. Without any explanation, she disappeared, saying only that she needed to use the restroom. Her friend was in on the plan too, and in an instant, she was gone. To hell with her husband, it seemed. And not only me, to hell with the kids too. She made this choice consciously, fully aware of what it meant. She knew how deeply it would hurt, yet she still left, on the night that was supposed to be ours. I can't fathom how someone who claims to love you could act this way. Perhaps if there had been signs, weeks of tension or estrangement, I might have been prepared for the betrayal. But just minutes before, she promised Dave that she'd dance every dance with me, held my hand as we laughed, meeting each other's gaze across the table. Everything seemed perfect. At one point, I considered picking up the kids early, but knew I wasn't ready to take care of them in this state. A hollow question echoed in my mind. What do I do now? Her cruel choice left me empty, deprived of all the feelings I should have had. No anger, no sadness, only numbness. Reality began to seep into my consciousness only the following morning when I finally opened my eyes. Somehow I managed to change into pajamas, hang up my suit, and collapse into bed. After a pointless shower, I trudged along an icy path and ended up at a cafe for breakfast. Marie, our usual waitress, immediately noticed I was alone. "Where's Arya?" she asked, pouring my coffee. I looked up at her. "You know Owen Anderson?" she smirked. "Who doesn't?" "Well, he's in bed with Arya now." Her face went pale, and she dropped the coffee pot, covering her mouth in shock. "Are you serious?" she whispered, clearly rattled by my blank stare. I nodded, brushing away the dampness gathering in my eyes. Twisting a napkin in my hands, I muttered, "Looks like I'll be needing a lot of these." "Ollie," she whispered, breaking protocol to place a comforting hand on my shoulder. "I thought you two were such a strong couple, just perfect." She brought over an entire napkin holder and sat down across from me. "My boss said I could take a break," she added softly. I just nodded. "So what will you do now?" she asked, genuinely concerned. I blew my nose, adding another tissue to the growing pile, and shook my head. "Honestly, I have no idea. I'm still trying to understand what even happened." She squeezed my hand in support, and I finally managed to say, "I'm stunned by how meticulously she planned it all." As I drank my coffee, I recounted the humiliations of that night, every painful detail. With each twist in the story, Marie's expression grew harder. "This is unbelievable," she finally said. "Did they know each other? Was all of this orchestrated?" "How would I know?" I replied, still struggling to comprehend it all. "I can't believe it," I muttered, staring into the distance. She had been so focused on me, up until the moment he asked her to dance. It was as if someone had flipped an invisible switch, and in an instant, she became a completely different person. I could never have imagined she had such a side to her. Marie nodded slightly in response, barely noticeable. "This reminds me of an old story my grandfather used to tell," I said, drifting into memories, "about a horse thief." "What story?" she asked, intrigued. "It was one of his favorites," I explained. "A horse was tied outside a store, and a man just walked up, untied it, and rode away as if he'd owned it all along. But the real question," I continued thoughtfully, pouring myself another cup of coffee, "was whether he became a horse thief because he stole the horse, or if he stole it because he was already a thief deep down. Many people walked past, but only he couldn't resist." Lost in thought, I realized I'd probably spent years married to a deceitful, cowardly woman who had always been selfish. I sighed, shaking my head in resignation. I didn't expect this. At that moment, Marie's manager seemed to signal her. She stood up, patted me gently on the shoulder, and gathered up the used napkins before heading to the counter. After some time, I noticed my breakfast was over. Empty plates and crumpled napkins were piled in front of me. At home, I began packing. Whatever happened, staying in a marriage with a woman who had so coldly betrayed me was no longer an option. In a whirlwind of movement, I grabbed boxes, packed only the essentials, and left. My parents had retired to another city, like so many others, and the thought of joining them suddenly felt right. Driving south, I wondered, am I running away? Not at all. If my parents still lived nearby, maybe I would have stayed. But now, I wanted to be near people I could trust. Their warm home, far from the toxic remains of my broken marriage, was a bonus. I called them on the way, calmly explaining what had happened, partly thanks to that quiet talk with Marie. Mom put me on speaker so Dad could listen too. They immediately offered for me to stay as long as I needed. I stopped at a gas station, logged into my accounts, and transferred nearly all our savings to a new offshore account. She'd get her share eventually, but given her coldness towards me, I saw no reason not to make her work for it. She'd have to find funds for a lawyer without immediate financial support, which might complicate her access to the best specialists. I even blocked her credit cards, claiming they'd been lost. Her new partner could likely support her. He had made that quite clear last night. I called my boss and used up my 2 weeks of accumulated leave to mark what was now simply a dead anniversary. By noon, the phone rang. It was Aria. I let it ring, making it clear I wasn't interested. Soon after, a message arrived. "I'm back. Where are you? Did you take the kids?" I waited for the next exit before replying. "No, I left. No." She called immediately, but I ignored it, rejoining the highway and sending her to voicemail. To avoid the temptation to respond again, I turned off my phone. She deserved the silence, the same emptiness her actions had left in my soul. Later, at a gas station, I turned on my phone and saw multiple missed calls. From her mother, from Dee, and even from my boss. Seriously? My boss calling on a day off? I realized Aria was doing everything she could to break through my silence, trying to reach me through any available channel. I turned off the phone again, finally firm in my decision. When I arrived at my parents', my new refuge, I spent over an hour recounting all the recent events to them. Afterward, I began to think about the future. I asked them to let me stay for a few weeks under the radar and not to reveal my location to anyone. "If it's inconvenient, I can always find a hotel," I offered. But they assured me it wasn't necessary, and we spent hours discussing options over mugs of beer, eventually deciding on a plan. Their house was only a few blocks from the beach, so I drove there, left the truck in an empty lot by the shore, took off my shoes, and let the waves brush my feet. Then Aria called. "Where are you, Oliver?" Her voice was tense. "I'm gone." "Where did I go?" "The same place as you. Yesterday you left, following some impulse that pulled you away from me. Today I did the same. I left and followed my own path." "I once loved you." "No, you're right. You never loved me. But that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I no longer love you. I can't endure such heartless betrayal." "But Oliver," she says, "what about our 17 years of marriage?" I've asked myself that question so many times I've lost count. Did you think about those years last night when you kissed that stranger? Did you think about us? About everything we built together? I don't know if she thought about it. I guessed, and her sigh told me everything I needed to know. How did you find out? She asked. Was it Dee? Oh, yes. Your friend Dee doesn't know how to keep secrets, does she? Dee practically stumbled over herself in her eagerness to tell me, like a fly drawn to fresh carrion. I chose my words carefully, letting her cling to the tiny bit of bewilderment she still had. But Oliver, it was just one night, she said. Exactly, Arya. In that one night you gave a stranger something you had denied me for 17 years. Now we both know where your true loyalty lies. Actions speak louder than words, don't they? Her sigh grew heavier. I had never spoken to her so sharply. For over 17 years I had been gentle, forgiving, believing my devotion was proof of love. To her, though, I was just a doormat, ready to take whatever she threw at me. But Oliver, what about our children? She pleaded. Yes, heartless cheater, what about them? Last night showed exactly how much they mean to you. If Emma had needed emergency help, if something had happened, no one would have been able to reach you. What kind of mother does that? Now we know where your true priorities lie. Oliver, please. It was just one night. I came back and I'll make things right. And how exactly will you do that? Silence. I'll do anything, she said. Please, come back and we'll get through this together. As for me, I seem to be managing quite well on my own, I replied. Thanks. What? How? Where are you? I'm where I need to be, far from a self-absorbed woman who so easily abandoned her family. She sighed and then started sobbing. Are you with Holly? Holly Burmeister, the sister of my fishing buddy, a woman who had always sparked Arya's jealousy. Holly was confident, easygoing, unafraid of a little flirtation, which drove Arya mad. I paused. Wait, did you just call her a shameless woman? What does that say about you? Holly is a free woman, and you're married with 2 young children. Holly didn't abandon a husband and children for a stranger. That was you, selfish and heartless. She cried harder. No, don't say that. I came back. It was just one night. But that one night was enough for me to see who you truly are. A lying, unfaithful traitor. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you did it anyway. That's the mark of a truly selfish person. I'm not the bad guy here. I truly care about you, I stated. No, you're not fooling anyone. The only person you're truly devoted to is yourself. And of course, that man you were with last night. Actions speak louder than words, Arya, I continued. You sacrificed everything for him. Was it worth it? Was that night really unforgettable? Her silence told me everything I needed to know. Come on, hurry up, I smirked. You'd better get to him before he finds another married woman to spend his Friday with. Did you see what he said in last month's interview? I pressed, watching as she began to falter. No. What did he say? He said he's tired of chasing after beautiful women. Claims he finds it far more thrilling to conquer plain, married women, the ones who aren't glamorous, the ones with stretch marks and signs of aging. Beautiful women are too easy for him. He needs a challenge. He thinks moms who put up a fight make the best conquests. No. He couldn't have said that, she murmured, horrified. Oh, but he did. It was last month. Didn't you see it? Why do you think he's always spotted with women like you? All the young, beautiful ones are gone. He's left with only the trusting ones he can manipulate. If you want to hold on to him, Arya, you'd better hurry. He'll be looking for a new thrill by Friday. Her restrained tears turned into open sobbing. You're just saying all this to hurt me, she whimpered. And why would I want to hurt you? Though she knew the answer, she whispered quietly, because I love you. Why would I want to hurt you, Arya? I asked again. Because I hurt you, she admitted, barely audible through her tears. Exactly. You knew it was wrong. That's why you couldn't look me in the eye afterward. You snuck in through the back door, asked Dee to cover for you, and thought you could sweep it all under the rug. Because for Arya Carlyle, love means apologizing afterward, after publicly humiliating her husband. And she still thinks he'll forgive her. I took a deep breath. No, Arya, This isn't just selfishness. It's delusion. But Oliver, it's over. It was only one night. I'm here now, and I'll be better, she pleaded. You haven't answered the most important question. How are you going to make up for the pain you caused me last night? How? She was silent, at a loss for words. Just then, a message came through from my mom. Dinner at 9. I have to go. Someone who genuinely cares about my feelings is making me dinner. Who is she? She screamed so loudly that I had to pull the phone away. Is it Holly? I swear I'll kill her. Ah, the maturity of the modern woman. How long do you think I'm going to put up with this, Arya? A heavy silence hung between us. Forever, I replied, calmly but firmly. Remember that, Arya. I'm done. Who would go back to a woman who's proven she doesn't care? You had your perfect night, congratulations. Now you can wonder every day if that night was worth throwing away 17 years of marriage. The silence between us was palpable, and I dealt the final blow. And maybe one day you'll ask yourself if it was worth it for your children to grow up knowing their mother destroyed their family. One night. One impulsive night that meant more to you than all the years we spent together raising our children. When they grow up, will they be able to find any self-respect? And now you expect my support after everything you've done? Don't count on it. Goodbye. Soon, I got a job closer to the family and enjoyed peaceful holidays. The divorce went smoothly, with a fair division of property. Although I returned half the money, it was satisfying to slightly delay the process just to make her a bit uncomfortable. It came as no surprise when a few husbands, fed up with someone's antics, decided to put an end to his career. Emma and Tommy grew up strong-willed and, understanding why our family had fallen apart, became little rebels in their own right. Eventually, Arya reluctantly agreed for the kids to move in with me, and they thrived. Maybe it was the warm climate, or maybe it was having a devoted father nearby. Meanwhile, friends back home found it only fair to warn anyone dating Arya about her tendency to betray. Realizing her reputation, she left town, occasionally reaching out to the kids, but after 3 months, she disappeared. They say the truth always finds its way, and sometimes it brings the right person along. For me, that was Nancy, 7 years younger, also divorced, with a daughter Tommy's age. It may sound like a cliché, but life is full of surprises, and since then, we've been happy. As for Arya, she soon found a younger man who brought her some happiness, until one night he left for a woman his own age whom he met at a dance. At least he didn't leave without a word. He waved as he walked away with his new partner. Since then, Arya stopped seeing anyone, spending her days in an apartment with a couple of stray cats. Or so the kids say. Karma, it seems, is still around, though it has softened over time. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.